to party.
What up, y'all? This is Justin Muzack. You're now tuned into the G R8-L8 Show on Pharcyde TV. I actually have my guest here right in front of me, Honor Flow Productions. How y'all doing?
Yeah.
Yo, what up?
Yo, man.
What up, Justin? What's going on, man?
Man, it's been a long time coming. I know that we've been trying to do this for about a year now. But you know what? It's finally here. It's not about like how long it took. It's like when you get here and then we have that real conversation, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. But I just want to go ahead and start from literally the beginning and talk about your musical upbringings and then just your individual journey.
So we go right to left, or we?
However y'all want to do it.
Get started off, man.
So Honor Flow Productions started when I was in high school. So last semester of it started as a DJ service first, then expanded out senior year as a group from there. Started making, jacking for beats, making mixtapes like that.
Nice.
And then once I started getting into college, I met Eliminate over here. Mm-hmm. We were in our orientation group at Marymount College. We just started chopping it up, talking about music, talking about hip hop. I was like, oh, come to the dorms, listen to stuff I was working on. And I didn't even know he rapped like a month after I met him.
Wow.
So we're doing shows, at Marymount College. And then I transferred to LMU, Loyola Marymount University. DJ is Lord, funny enough. Tell you how God works. We were supposed to be roommates first.
Yeah, we were.
Wow, that's crazy.
If you look at the living paperwork, we were supposed to be roommates at first.
I still have his message and email. It's like, hi, Lord, are you from England? And I'm like, no,
Wow.
my name is Lord.
He just meet a cat named Lord. He just like,
His name was Charles Nunley IV.
Right.
I thought he was from London.
Yeah, that's a
It's pretty formal, dude. Like,
yeah, for real.
So he ended up not living with me. He ended up living at the CSA house, which is a service org house.
Yes, it is.
On campus.
It's a service house. Like, you basically had to do hours, and that's the way you stayed in the house. You had to fulfill an hour sheet every month, and then that's how you stayed in the house.
Wow.
Community work.
Wow.
And then from there, actually, the guy that ended up living with me ended up playing keys in the band for a second. Shouts out to Ray. But we ended up meeting through mutual friends. So long story short, because there's so much I know we're trying to condense here. At one point, we were an 8-piece band. We looked like Wu-Tang.
Wow.
We looked like Wu-Tang for a second here. Then we looked like the Roots. Like there was keys, bass, drums, DJ, 3 MCs.
That sounds really tight though.
It was. But you know what? You've worked in group situations. It's hard.
It's very hard
to keep a big group like that together. Times change, people change, priorities change. So we got to a point where certain members of the group want to do other things, including one of the MCs in the group, Key Real. He went to med school. He's a doctor now.
Oh, man.
So
different priorities.
We got down to the three of us, and at a certain time, Eliminate made a live detour and moved out the country.
Just figuring some stuff out. I decided to teach junior high school English.
Nice.
In Japan.
Oh.
Yeah, so I picked up some Japanese, and then when that ran its course, came back and just got to working on just music, and at this point now.
Wow.
It's been like when he left, it was in a really transitional stage. Lord and I kept DJing. I didn't know what the group was going to look or sound like at that point. I know we wanted to keep doing original music. We're going to keep working over the internet. But it's different when you're actually in the same vicinity.
Yeah.
And I always say to him, him coming back home saved the group, because I don't know what would have happened. I really don't know what would have happened. But when he came back, I was like, okay, this is meant to go. And the Black Odyssey, the album we're pushing out now, 10 years in concept, 5 years in the making, man.
Wow. What was that initial moment when you realized, all right, we need to be a group? Because, y'all all pretty much met in college, but when did that, connection really happen?
I say between the three of us, when there was the butting of heads within the group, there I never get. There was this particular moment.
Actually, I could say it's when to answer your question, it was actually out of the 8, there was only 3 left. And then I think we all sat down. We all decided
we're at Del Taco.
We're going to meet at Del Taco.
Del Taco.
At Sound Stations in Westchester.
So over some tacos and a bean and cheese burrito, we were like, I guess this is it. This is us 3, and that's it. And we've always talked about the Trinity factor of hip hop. Some of the best groups were trios like Run DMC, Dilated Peoples. And so when it came down to it, De La Soul. So
Tribe at one point too.
Right. It's it's hard. It's hard for me to call Tribe a trio sometimes because of Jerobi. So it's but their heyday But Jerobi was spitting his ass off on that.
I mean,
the last
he was.
album, man.
He was, but like you said, like Low End Theory, Midnight Marauders.
Right.
You know,
it was Five Tip and
that's a tough one.
Yeah, that's why I said kind of Tribe.
Right.
And, you know, I know some Tribe fans might be mad, but it's all good. You know what I mean?
It's a free debate, man. Absolutely.
Definitely. And then, man, y'all literally are true MCs, DJs, and everything. And I know in the time that you're coming up, some people might think that you had to carry an image, but when I saw y'all live, you definitely embraced the nerdiness, the anime and stuff like that.
Right.
So when did have you guys always been? I know you're over here with the Nickelodeon Double Dare,
Capsule,
the Street Fighter. Has that always been there since the beginning, or did y'all have to like really get to that point? Like, look over there.
You know what, man? You always got to be yourself.
You know, for me, it's occupational. I work in the video game industry, professional video game tester. Just saying. So
nice.
It's not too hard of a jump for me.
You know what, man? Like when we started doing live shows, when we met, hip hop was at the snap era at that point.
Yeah.
We always joke about when we started making music, how many trends have come through hip hop since we started rocking it. It's been 14 years. And we just always did what the fuck we want to do.
Right.
So there's always been references to video games, cartoons, movies. Mm-hmm. You know, you can talk about your life and talk about girls and all that stuff in the same vicinity, man. It's all life. Mm-hmm. So we've never ever had a problem with being ourselves, because we've always been comfortable in our own skin just as men. So it's never been a problem. Never been a problem at all.
Right, and it's so interesting to me because like I've seen y'all do like the samurai moves and everything like that. And then I was really impressed by your live game. Like, just
Thank you.
Just me. That's not me just saying that.
We take pride in that shit, man.
Arigato.
Yeah. but how do you go about like creating that same energy from the records and transferring that over to the crowd? Because some people might make some hype records, but it doesn't translate over to them performing.
I got the secret. We got the secret equation. It's one word. You ready for it? Practice.
It's practice and just being ourselves. Really. It's just allowing ourselves to be ourselves and not being afraid of being ourselves.
No, that's really important. I feel like the Allen Iverson practice. We talk about practice, not a game, not a game that I die for.
But you know what, man? We all grew up playing sports.
Yeah.
And you know, there's always that saying: if you play like you practice. I know I heard it all the time playing sports growing up, and like we live and die by our live show. Like we're in there practicing all the time, making sure everything is correct. Mm-hmm. So that's why our live show is as tight as it is because we put the time and effort into it. And you know, a lot of cats, it's crazy. Like in an era, you know, hip hop started as live music first. There was in the parks, there was nothing on record. And it's crazy how a genre that started live first is now being looked upon as we're garbage live. I don't like that feeling. I don't like that feeling, man.
Yeah, it's weird. And we're talking a little bit off air about how cats are rapping over their vocals and they're kind of like, oh, you know, here's a flash drive. You don't have a doggo. Like
here's my phone.
They're failing to prepare, and then they're mad at the DJ or whoever else is putting on the show for their bad show. It's wild, right?
Yeah, you know, with that, like I think it comes just with you know, a lack of history, a lack of the knowledge of the culture. You know, because you know, if you get down to it, the backbone of hip hop is always the DJ.
Absolutely,
and,
yeah, of course.
Your DJ, having a DJ, you know, that's your best friend. The DJ makes your shows, just makes your shows. So, you know, a lot of people, I think it's just ignorance at this point.
Yeah, no, it's very true.
The DJ's your band. Would you trust a band?
Well, talking about the DJ too. Right. We also remember as DJs, the number one thing we got to do is practice.
Yep.
So we took that work ethic and also incorporated.
It's very true.
It's like if you're just gonna work on one scratch, you're gonna work on that one scratch for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. If you're gonna be working on a juggle, you're gonna be working on that juggle for an hour, 2, 3 hours. And I feel like it's like we hammer it down to perfection. Like even even if we don't get it right, we're gonna get it right because it's also that drive and determination that pushes us, motivates us.
I agree.
Separates us from the rest.
And it shows.
And it's just pride, and you want to take pride in your work, man. Like we take pride in our shit, man. We don't want to come to looking stupid.
No, yeah, that's the biggest thing. You never want to look stupid.
Like you know, we're having fun up there, but we take the craft seriously. Like we don't want to look caught out there in front of folks. We want to make sure we represent properly, man, for our generation, and even you know what it is. It's really for us. Like I said, it's just about, you know, making something that's timeless.
Right.
Something that sticks. You know, it's not a new school thing. It's not an old school thing. You know, people are like, oh, rap on the tracks. No, it's just about making sure you make something that sticks.
Right.
You know, something that means something.
You've been blessed to play overseas and just all over. What are some of your tactics when it comes to winning the crowd over? Like I said before too, it's like making sure those tactics translate over to overseas, because you know it's not an easy thing.
He was the secret weapon, man. We were talking to a group on the way over here. They're talking about going over there, and I said it then, and I'll say it over again here. Like, Eliminate here was the secret weapon for us.
Break it down
over there, man.
You know, like you know, especially I knew like a lot of things would you know, fall on me just because I got a certain command of the language, and I have you know, certain insight into the culture. So, you know, pretty much, you know, I just, you know, kind of empathize. Like, you know, if you know someone is coming to you know, America, you know, it's really cool if they're trying to, like, you know, show some of their, you know, their knowledge of the culture, that pop culture. Right. But at the same time, like, you know, showing you, like, you know, something from their, you know, side of the world. And, you know, with that, like, you know, like a lot of the emceeing was done in Japanese, like, you know, just like, you know, working the crowd and just introducing ourselves.
Wow, nice.
You know, so like, you know, my Japanese is all right, but yeah, like just
he's not giving himself enough credit, man.
It's cool. Like, no.
He went on stage. Like,
see what I'm saying?
Oh my god, you sound professional right now.
Yeah.
So the plan was like, we got this intro. I remember he told me, he's like, hey Chuck, I want you to flip Cowboy Bebop. So you know, so when you saw us, I flipped the Avengers of us walking on stage. Right. But in Japan, I flipped Cowboy Bebop.
Wow.
So we walked, and he's like, yo, flip Cowboy Bebop. So I flipped it. We all walk on stage, and we all said, nobody say a word. He's gonna start it off.
Oh man.
Yeah.
He killed it, and it was like the ultimate sign of respect. Of, you know, we took time to know.
No, that you know, that really won the crowd over. Yep. Like, you know, they were just like, you know, because like I think like when a lot of Western artists go out there, you know, there's, you know, oh, konnichiwa, you know, how are you? Domo arigato, but like, you know, I was like full out.
No, you're really speaking the language.
And they were just like, what? Like, and then, you know, people were coming up to us after the show and like, you know, just like
showing love.
And, you know, it was a lot of love.
Man, that's really wild.
To connect, also, one other thing about translating your tactics. One thing that surprised us is we didn't know, because as you saw us live, we're very much a call and response type group. We need audience participation.
Oh yeah.
We didn't know if it was going to translate, but they were right there with us every step of the way, every command, everything. Even like certain parts that were dancing, it was like certain records we didn't know how, you know, they responded ways we didn't know they would respond to. So it was beautiful.
Well, because of that call and response, as well as the fact that by the end of our set, they pretty much knew the song, because it was just easy to follow with the whole call and response.
Wow.
So by the end of it, as a DJ, you know, I'll like turn off the volume or just like switch off the fader and get a call to response to them back and forth, like old school DJs, you know what I mean? And then, so when it happened, for a minute, I was like, I can just turn this off, especially with one track called Joy.
Shot the shit out of us, man.
Yeah, because that, until to this day, I think about it, gives me goosebumps, because I'm kind of like, I mean, some of them spoke or they try to speak some English, and then we try to speak some Japanese. But I mean, there is a clear language barrier between the Japanese people and us. Right. But the fact that not only were they like singing our songs, some of them even knew it, and they don't speak a word of English.
Man,
it was an incredible experience, man.
It's a real amazing thing. And then just dialing back, you were teaching out there. How did you set up everything? Did you just get to know promoters, or?
I mean, yeah, like that came from, you know.
So from us, it was cold emails. Cold emails. The top of last year, we're like, we've talked about for a long time. We're gonna go out the country and tour. We don't know where the hell we're gonna go. You ever see Indiana Jones? You know, you see like the red plane, kind of like flying, like literally spin the globe, and it could have been anywhere.
Wow.
And we're sending out cold emails after cold emails of just our shit. And it just turns out we hooked up with a promoter in Japan, who I may add, who hasn't booked a hip hop act like in a decade. The last cats he fucked with was some, I think it was some dudes from Florida. Was it Florida? It's Florida.
Some dudes from Florida.
And them niggas was wilding out there.
They came to Japan.
They were
and they know the culture. They know any of the cultural practices. So I think he was traumatized from that experience, and he's like, no hip hop whatsoever. And then finally he met us, and he was like, all right.
I can trust these guys. I can take a chance.
And furthermore, kind of with their touring package, you know, they're like, oh, do you want a live band? I was like, no, we have our DJs. Like, we had to take something. So like, okay, give us a drummer then. And Eric, who was our drummer during that, like
shout out to you, man.
We couldn't have had a better vet on our side with that first run. We learned this life game, touring game from him. Man. Like, we really had a great team, you know, with us that first run out, man. We couldn't have been more blessed, for real.
Shout out to Dwayne too.
Shout out to
Dwayne. Took care of us, and Mamiko.
They took care of us, man.
Right.
Everybody took care of us out there, man.
Man. And then also, it seems as though, like, overseas, especially Japan, they lean more towards traditional hip-hop and classic. But, like, what is it about classic or experimental hip-hop that you think that's why they like it so much?
Well, because I think when it comes to Japanese culture, they want to emulate. Because here's the thing, we get into that conversation of like, cultural appropriation or whatnot.
Right, of course.
Right, because that we've seen that, like, people been accused of that with reggae music, especially, you know, with like dance hall crews, but hip hop in itself too. What they don't understand is Japanese people honor the best parts of that culture.
It's true, man.
And that's what it is. So when we went out there, it was like a living, breathing time capsule of the best parts of hip hop. Basically from the 90s, lo-fi, even before it was cold lo-fi, and then 2000s. Like, we're walking around Osaka and we got cats walking out NHA and like Fat Farm, like wearing velour suits. Like, it's like a time capsule. It was like everyone's wearing camos and
no
555 soles.
Oh, that's wild.
No, but then they had.
Do we have a do-rags out there?
But they had dreadlocks and cornrows.
There were a few do-rags,
Yeah.
Chuck, you missed the people in the do-rags?
Remember this dude, he took it off and he had waves.
Oh, my God.
He had a throwback Iverson
jersey.
That's
right.
Oh, man. We talk about practice.
Yes, sir.
Since we talk about do-rags, can we just say that Thundercat's new song, Dragon Ball Do-Rag, is the best title for a song right now?
I was so hyped. I was literally so hyped when that came on my Spotify release radar. I was like, oh my God. I showed my manager because he's like one of the biggest Dragon Ball fans ever. And I was like, and he just like looked at the cover and he just shook his head. It was the funniest thing. Shout out to you, Nick.
It's the best song title of any song right now.
Of course.
Dragon Ball Do-Rag.
Y'all are New Jobbers fans, right?
Of course.
Yes. Of course. I figured, but I have to ask.
We spent some money out there because it's hard to find his records out here.
Dude, I want
Tower Records.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
They got us, man.
I'm so jealous. And then, super side note, if you don't know, that man owned record shops too in Japan. So big shout out to him. R.I.P. But where I really want to go with this is weighing in on the whole lo-fi movement, and especially it wouldn't exist without New Jobbers and Dilla, correct?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I got kind of mad and like, because I saw Genius kind of post about it, right? Right. And my whole thing is like, and no disrespect to Genius, but I'm like, yo, we've been on that. We've been saying that for years. Where were y'all at?
I had a conversation with one of our homies in Japan earlier today, Jay Bishop, who's a dope producer in his own right, and we were laughing about this. We're just like, Lo-Fi is Dilla and Nujabes and Flying Lotus and Kev Brown. It's just boom bap hip hop, underground hip hop.
It was underground hip hop. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's really what it was.
With cats like Oh No too as well.
Mad Lib. It's pretty much like the gentrification of underground hip hop. Like
they got to label it something.
Like they try to with trap music, just southern hip hop.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Yeah, it's so ridiculous. But I mean, with the trap argument, it's a little bit different because then you had like T.I. having the album Trap Music, and then
the content is a whole lot different.
Right.
I mean, but dubstep, we can't take credit. Like black people, we can take credit for basically every type of music and creation in the world. But dubstep, I don't think we can take credit for that.
Actually, dubstep traces its origin from reggae dancehall.
I can see that just how the time signatures
are. I mean,
true.
That's true. Plates. That's true.
Because when you basically when you mess up or just like you double plate it, or if you actually juggle it, that's where dubstep comes, and then you just add an EDM effect to it, and that's what it was.
Man,
I can't only take so much of dubstep though. I can't even.
In the EDM space, house music is where I live. Like deep house. Stuff like that.
My man.
Yeah.
For real.
Do y'all feel like Kaytranada is the gateway to house music?
You know what?
I believe so, especially with his remixes and a lot of his his bootlegs.
In the last 5 years, there have been 3 house artists that have just changed and it went in order. Disclosure was first.
Of course.
Yes. Then K Tronada. Then S.G. Lewis.
Those
3.
Oh my God.
I saw S.G. Lewis recently live at the Novo.
Is amazing.
And dude killed it. So those 3 have kind of changed. I mean, everybody goes back to Daft Punk, obviously.
Of course,
and,
yeah.
And all the pioneers down in Chicago and Frankie Knuckles, and we can go down that line as well. But in terms of modern house, and Calvin Harris, deep Calvin Harris, early Calvin Harris stuff as well.
I love the funk wave stuff too.
Right, the funk wave stuff's off the hook. But definitely
as well.
Yeah, disco.
Definitely.
Disco's great.
And
I introduced you guys to like Fisher, and I had you listen to Fisher.
Shit, man.
Fisher's like a throwback to like 90s like house, like techno.
I love all that stuff. Yeah.
A lot of sampling from like 70s soul and funk. You know what I mean?
It's interesting just for the show. Like, if you really follow the show, I have my random house episodes because I'm just like, yeah, I love hip hop and R&B, but we gonna do this because that's just what we gonna do. And then but people seem to receive it well, so.
You know what? We try to incorporate as many different genres as possible. We actually did a hip hop house EP. Shout out to the homie Jeff the Jacker.
Oh man,
we flipped
the Jacker.
What we did is called a Jacker and the Flow. We flipped classic hip hop records and made them house records.
You need to slide that through. I need that.
Oh shoot, I'll send you that too.
Oh please,
I'll send you that too, man. And there's a little bit of that in our album too. If you listen to the song "Enjoy Yourself" on our album, there's that flip at the end with the talk box, and it goes to that 4 to the floor beat. That was a straight K Tronada disclosure nod at the end without question.
That's super dope. Going back to our conversation about lo-fi and chill hop and everything, do you think that there are key differences between like what Low End Theory was doing like with the LA beat scene, or do you think it's like the same thing altogether?
I mean that the Low End Theory, you're talking about the event at the airliner.
That movement, because like if you look at the channels that are on YouTube that say like lo-fi or chill hop, like there are things that are similar. But do you see that there are key differences between like the raw Low End Theory stuff and then that?
You know what? Some of the Low End Theory stuff was really more experimental. Like I saw Flying Lotus in 2009 there, right around the Reset EP era.
Dang,
like when he was just starting to pop off, and the people were dancing and stuff like that. I didn't even know was danceable. It was like I was just sitting there just watching this shit, just amazed, like holy shit. A lot of their stuff was more experimental. You had guys like him and Gas Lamp Killer and all those guys, that whole Brain Feeder,
that whole movement.
Toki Monster, all of them over there. They have their own kind of, it's a little more extreme in certain sense. And then lo-fi can be more kind of chill and kind of, like I said, it's the descendants of Dilla and Nujabes without question.
Definitely, man. And then Chuck, I know you've already kind of dove into the whole production thing, but you being a DJ, do you ever feel like, man, like I'm in this pocket as a DJ, this is how I'm feeling, but then as a producer, I'm feeling one way? Does it ever like come together, or is it always kind of like one or the other?
You know what? The headspace, when it's time to rap, it's time for me to rap. When it's time for me to produce, it's time for me to produce. When it's time for me to spin, it's time for me to spin. And it's hard, like as much of a multitasker I try to be, to give my best in all 3, even from a business standpoint. I got to stop being creative for a second, because I got to give my all in anything we're doing. So, sometimes I have to reserve the headspace. Some other of it, I may do less of it at a certain point. But if I'm in a groove producing wise, I'm all in the production. I'm in a groove DJing wise. I'm in a groove writing wise.
All in the videos.
You sound like Chick Daddy. We got a lot of references on this episode.
All in the record. You know what? But you're right. It's the headspace of it. And even as a DJ, when you're rocking crowds, like just getting in that headspace with Lord when we do things together, it's just, sometimes I could be in the middle of working on a record, but I know I got to get in that headspace with him to go rock a party, or I got to get in that headspace to go right with Eliminate here.
We also do weddings, and we do all sorts of different kinds of like mobile DJ gigs as well too.
That's really awesome. And I also wanted to ask you, how has being a DJ helped you read a crowd, even when it comes to your set list and everything like that?
Everything.
I mean, the set list in itself is kind of like, all right, you have your crate, but it's kind of like a guide. It's kind of like, when you have flashcards and you're doing a speech.
Yeah, of course.
In actuality, when it's freestyle out of the dome, because you can have a full-on like set list ready to go, 30, 40, 50, 70 songs. End of the day, when you read the crowd, it's sort of like stereotyping, and then you kind of get the age range of who's in the crowd. especially the ultimate challenge is doing that at weddings, because you have a wide span of like kids who are 5 to like people in their 80s. So how you're gonna make it work is ultimately the test. You know, it's easy. You know, you can do a live event, you do a club event where you like, it's a theme where it's like we play 90s or like golden era hip hop. But see, it's funny for me because growing up, when I thought about 90s, like partying in the 90s, for me, it's like I think about house music. I think about techno. So I would incorporate all those music and sounds I would hear, like even pop, even the cheesy pop stuff, and you know, like even like some rock and hip hop. But then when it comes down to it, the ultimate, what separates a really good DJ and a great DJ is what Jazzy Jeff just said. It's like a good DJ will play a song you want to hear, but a great DJ will be that person who will play a song you didn't think you wanted to hear.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
And when you get that crowd reaction, that big pop, that massive pop, you're just like, yo, I'm in the zone. I already know, because as a DJ, you're already thinking, all right, if I got one song, I got 2 songs, I got 3 songs, I got 4, I got 5, I got 20 at one point.
It's emotion. It's about building. It's building emotion and building the journey. So when we're crafting our set, it's like, okay, you always start out strong. Even when sequencing the album, like, they'll tell you how much of a stickler I am with sequencing. Like, shit will get thrown off the album if it ain't sequenced right. Like,
right.
It's all because it's like, how you gonna hold someone's attention from 1 to 12 tracks, or 1 to 14, or 1 to 16, or whatever the case may be. Like, you gotta hold the attention. And same thing goes for a live show. It's about the and the same thing as a DJ. You're taking people on a journey. It's like writing a story, beginning, middle, and end. So to answer your initial question, it's everything. Like, you understand how to. Being a DJ and being a performer is you have the emotion of the people in your hand. That's powerful.
Yeah,
to control emotion like that. So we take about it. We look at it from that standpoint of we're controlling the emotions of the crowd, and we got to take them on a journey. So
exactly. And then you even just working in radio, it's more behind the scenes and everything.
Right.
But how do you ever feel like there's I'm trying to word this right, but like, do you ever feel like, man, like I'm around these type of records all day, right? Or like even you doing Scam and Jam, right?
Right.
Do you ever just like get in that space of like, maybe I should make something towards that, or I should flip something that's similar to that?
Oh yeah. You know, honestly, being at Scam and Jam, like going back to the song "Enjoy Yourself," it's a nod to 80s freestyle. That song is a nod to 80s freestyle. So sometimes what you play, you know, what you listen, you know, there's certain artists, when they create music, they won't listen to anything. They're like, I got to be in my own world.
Yeah, of course.
And create. And if that works for them, that works for me. I need everything. I need to watch movies. I need to read books. I need to listen to different type of music. I'm a sponge. I need as much inspiration as possible.
Wow.
So whatever I'm around is going to come out in the music, both musically and lyrically. And I can say that for the 3 of us as well. Life is the inspiration for this group. Always, and we'll never run out of stuff because of that. Whatever we're going through, it's very honest about where we are in our lives, both musically and emotionally and psychologically. You're always gonna get 100. We wear our hearts on our sleeve. That's just us.
Right. And you touched on it a little bit earlier, how even though you're a multitasker and you know, whatever you decide to do, you put your all in. Y'all are fully independent. How do you divvy up like marketing and then mixing and then just everything that needs to come together to make a group successful? How do y'all divvy that up between the 3 of you?
Communication.
Organizational skills.
Nice.
We have people always ask, well, what's the key to being in a group? First and foremost, these are my brothers.
Right.
You know what I mean? Music shit aside, these are my brothers. So beyond what we're doing as a group and business wise, I know I can call them for anything.
Right.
So whenever we have a disagreement, which every group does, we respect and love each other enough to know whatever happens, we can always sit down and talk out things. Regardless.
Fuck that, we fight it out. Got the gloves and the
Fight Club nah, like for real, like
freaking Smash Bros and everything.
But you know, for real, like there's always that respect to always, like, because we know no matter what, especially the deeper we go in this industry, you know what I mean? And I've learned, as you were bringing out my radio background, man, and then just working at other spots, you find out how grimy this business can be. how deceiving this business can be.
Oh yeah,
and I say that to say this: you keep in mind who the real people are next to you, who have your best interests in mind. And I know these brothers got my best interests in mind, and vice versa.
You find out your circle's really a triangle.
That's really true, man. I've never heard that one. There's a lot of quotables in this interview so far.
He has one that
I got a ton of them.
You brought up earlier about us, being ourselves, and was there ever an issue about that? There's a quote I've heard him say a couple times.
Here we go. Yeah. So, if you want to be number one, you got to be odd. Odd is number one. It's a number that stands on its own, and it has the courage to be on its own, and it's not worried about being like anything else. It's odd. It's not worried about or concerned about being odd. So that's what it is.
I mean, that's probably why Odd Future. That's why Tyler ultimately at the end of it is the one.
As one, yeah.
Right.
But he's the odd one.
He is the last one.
He is the last one.
I'm a big, but you know what? All those cats, man, I love the internet the most. I can't even front, man.
Yeah,
I'm a big internet fan, man.
It's interesting. My gateway into all that was Frank, and then it went to Mellow Hype, and then it went Earl, and then everybody else, and then Tyler literally became my favorite over the years. I'm like, oh snap! Now I see why everybody loved Tyler.
Another Neptune's disciples were talking about.
Oh
I love the Neptunes off the air, man, and. Props to him for just pushing. Whether you like the music or not, he is pushing it.
Of course.
Stylistically, musically.
And challenging himself.
He's grown a lot as an artist.
A lot.
In the last 10 years.
From all around. As an MC, as a producer.
Just as a person also.
Yeah, as a person. Man, salute to him, for sure.
Absolutely, man. West Coast, man.
Man, West Coast. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Okay.
Because I've talked to Brown about this because a lot of people may not, they'll second guess the Pharcyde's a West Coast group. Just because they'll be like, okay, I heard Pharcyde, they sound more East Coast because of, the music and all that, right?
Right.
Especially y'all being West Coast technically, but then not necessarily having the real gangster elements of it.
Right.
Why do you think that happens? Like, why do you think that when you don't sound like West Coast per se, you're kind of like pushed to the side versus, because like I feel like the YGs of the world, the Games of the world, the Nipseys, the Dom Kennedys, they were embraced because they had that sound, right? But like other cats like the Odd Futures or the Stones Throws and like the Funk Volumes, they were never really as embraced and put that label as West Coast. You get what I mean?
You know what, man? There's always been an alternative. You bring up the Pharcyde's legacy with them and Freestyle Fellowship from that era, and then you push into the early 2000s. You have Dilated Peoples, and and of course, and Jurassic 5. There's always been an alternative in the West Coast.
They were even at one point called alternative hip hop. I mean, that's
exactly
what it was.
That's true.
Because everyone was actually kind of getting tired of that West Coast gangster stuff. Because I mean, in actuality, it's like it's cool. It got that West Coast funk. I think nowadays it's more like love because it's nostalgic. Because you don't hear it as much on radio play either. Because mumble rap pretty much dictates the airwaves, but nowadays it's kind of like they go back to it and it's like they rediscover these hidden gems. And a lot of people, especially like my younger nieces and nephews and cousins, who go through my crates of records, are like, who's this? And I was like, some of them went like into like Styles of Beyond, and they were like, yo,
I love Styles of Beyond.
They're like, yo, who's this? And then like, all right, if you like Styles of Beyond, I was like, you got to listen to these guys. They're not from West Coast. They're from the East Coast. They're known Signs of Life. Now, if anyone knows Signs of Life, it's like they were really like preachers. They were like far beyond, like 20 years advanced to what they were saying until now. So I mean, it's kind of like it's very intellectual. And then they're saying, how come I'm not introduced to this hip hop on the radio? Because they won't play it. That's just the way it works.
See, that's why this show was created also.
Exactly.
As Lord said, there's always been an alternative. So if we were to say TDE is Death Row, like they're the main West Coast entity.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll take that title of being, in the lane of the far side of Dilated Peoples, of Jurassic 5. If that's what, what, you can't dictate what people feel about your music because music is subjective.
Yeah,
you just can't.
Yeah,
but that's good ass company to be in, though. We'll take it, man.
It's for the world.
Question.
Like, when you put it out, it's the world's now, and you gotta, just put everything on the chopping block and just, listen to or hear what people got to say about it.
Man, I agree. I want to go ahead and get into another song called The Life.
Okay.
And, we're going to go ahead and vibe for a little bit, but you know what it is. Great Late Show, Pharcyde TV. Here we go.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
The Life. Take us through that one. Break it down.
So The Life was really early on in the process. So we released an EP before this album came out called Boombox Sketches, which had The Life, This That Jam, At the Speed of Light, and Lose Control. That became the foundation of the album, along with It's All Love. It's All Love, the new video, is actually the oldest record on the album.
Wow, really?
That was the first major beat that kind of stayed away for the, we staged away for the album.
Yeah, put that together before I left for Japan to teach out there.
So for it to see the light of day and be a video now is amazing. But back to your question, it was in that first kind of batch of records. We were working with a singer at the time. Her name is Luna, who's also on This That Jam as well.
I love her voice.
And she co-wrote the record with us, man. People call it, again, subjective. We didn't really think about it when we made this record. People call it like today was a good day. Which I could see that. Like it was just kind of that the perfect day in LA for us, The Lakers winning.
Man, R.I.P. Kobe. Yeah.
It still don't seem, to talk about him in past tense still doesn't seem
real.
It doesn't seem right.
I feel like a lot of the deaths that have happened in the last 2 years don't even seem real. Like I feel like Nipsey Hussle and Mac Miller are still alive.
Right.
It's like it's really weird.
In the last 10 years, I mean, out of any public death, I've taken that one the hardest.
Oh,
There's been a lot of like in terms of people that influence me, you're talking like Michael Jackson and Prince and Amy Winehouse and Fife.
Yeah, I was gonna say Fife.
And we're both Linkin Park fans. Chester Bennington, and that's my sister's favorite band. So that was a rough day in the house. So it's just a long list of people, and then to add Kobe to that list, unreal.
It's super unreal.
Unreal, man. But it was but that record's about the perfect day, though, man. It's breezy. It's LA. And it kind of gives that feeling to it, man. So that's what that record's about.
Kind of shifting gears just a little bit. Are y'all the type of creatives that you can really sit back and listen to your old stuff, and not be like, all right, it's cringeworthy, or are you the type of people that are like, all right, well, this is where I was at. I hear my influences. I hear what I was trying to do, and hindsight is 20/20. Exactly.
And it's funny you bring that up question now because we just celebrated the 10th anniversary of our debut album, Visions.
Yeah, and there's a documentary.
Then we just put together a short doc on that. The three of us talk on the album, and Key Real, we talked about, who became a doctor, came back one night only to kind of discuss the record. The record, he was one of the foundations of that record. Exactly what you said. We knew where we were going, and we know what we were trying to do. And I always say this about our old stuff. I never diss our old stuff because it was the very best we could do at that time.
We always gotta have a place you start from, and I definitely, I loved our first album. Like it was great. It was a great experience, and even listening to it, like it's never cringeworthy. It's always like, man, like we encapsulated our college experience on this album. So man, just reliving first week of school I got robbed at gunpoint. First week of school I got into a car accident. First week, it seemed like I had a storm cloud over my head, and just just every track on that album just reminds me of the good and bad times. And I think that's a really important thing to do with your music is just make it timeless, and just allow people to recall great memories and make great experiences to it.
I agree. And going to the writing process of it all, are y'all the type of people when you go through things emotionally, are you quick to just write it down, or are you quick, or do you kind of sit on that sometimes and let it marinate and then kind of just approach the record?
You know what? There's times where it hits you in the moment, and then there's certain records where you're not ready to write that song yet. You know what you want to talk about, but you're not ready to KRS One, I remember I heard say, like, when you're writing a song, he's like, you're receiving it. Like, it's almost like you're about to eat.
Wow.
And certain records, I'll give you a great example of a song on Black Odyssey. There's a song called Weird Science. And that record is kind of talking about, you know, our relationships with women and kind of the weird science of it is, you know, like the line of, I say at the end, like, you learn one thing, as soon as you think you learn something about women, you know, everything gets thrown out the window. You start over again.
Yeah.
You know, and I knew what that song was about, and I knew I wanted to touch upon my relationships with certain women in that verse, but I wasn't ready to write that verse yet until at a certain moment, like, okay, I'm ready to write it. I know what I need to say. So sometimes I'll jot things in my phone, but let me just say I always am pen to paper all the time. Like, I feel like there's an energy between it coming from your hand to a piece of paper. Coming out of you. Like, I'll jot stuff in my phone, but when it's really time to really get down and write the song, without question, pen and paper. But you're right.
No one's going to put your phone in the Smithsonian.
Exactly.
You know?
That's real.
Exactly.
That's real. But I think what you said is very true, to the point where it's like there's so many things happen when, you know, the initial event, and then after that writing it and then recording it, and it's just like the transferring of all that, the transferring of information. I think it's just really powerful. You know what I mean?
Sometimes you need time. You do need time sometimes for it to marinate, for it to make sense. You know, again, this record is 5-6 years of experience, almost 10, because post graduation into adulthood, you know, the record's about finding personal freedom. That's the concept of the Black Odyssey, about finding personal freedom. And it's, you know, a lot of our records are concept heavy, and it starts with conversation among us, among our peers. We're always a sponge. When you're a songwriter, you may not know it. If we're in a conversation with you, it's almost like we're a psychiatrist. We're taking notes of what you're saying, because in a way, when you write records, you're not only just writing them for yourself, you're writing it to serve the people as well.
Yeah,
how's this going to relate to other folks? You know, can you take your rant in your head and make it relatable to everybody else? And that's just the connection to it for your listener. So there is therapy in it. Sometimes you need some time to really marinate on it, but it's a process. It's definitely a process.
I agree 1,000%. How many times has it been where it's like, all right, lyrics first, then beat, or sometimes is it just like, all right, beat first and then lyrics?
You know what? It's a combination of both.
Yeah, you know, definitely. You know, I think, like, you know, especially being like, you know, these songwriters, you know, we're not, you know, soliciting, you know, any services or anything like that.
Right.
No, but yeah, I mean, I think, like, you know, for me, like, you know, sometimes I don't have a beat, there's no melody, and I'm just like writing rhymes down just about like how I feel. And then, you know, other times, like, you know, Chuck will, you know, play, he'll say something like, man, you got to hear this beat like I made. And I'm just like, okay, cool. And then, like, immediately the words just start coming to it, you know, based on, you know, how I'm feeling about it. So like, you know, there's never one set way in my process, at least, but like, you know, it's just, you know, just saying what you feel. Like, sometimes you feel like, you know, playing around, like, you know, just, you know, talking some shit. Sometimes, you know, you got to hug it out on the record, you know, so to speak. So
honestly, this is very important. I want to point out here, because we touched upon earlier that we had 8 members in this group.
Right.
There wasn't really a time where all 8 of us were writing together at that time. It just was impossible, because everybody was, you know, maybe it was pockets of people here and there, but because it was the 3 of us now, we can all lock in and kind of bounce things off of each other. And yes, there's times where he'll come in with something or I'll come in with something, but the biggest difference between the Black Odyssey and Visions, and, you know, with Key Real, who was, you know, the third MC in the group, Key and I barely wrote together. Like, we would come to the studio ready to go. You know, Eliminate, and I would write record, like, literally, here's the beat, and we would write the record together in the den, like in Drake's den where we record at my spot. And that was a big difference. Like, there was sometimes he had a verse, I'm like, yo, that's the one. And a lot of times we were literally, here's the beat, and we'd start from scratch. And a lot of times Lord would be like, yay or nay on things, like, that's dope, or I don't know about that one. And
yes, the check split better 3 ways than
Hilarious.
I mean, we encountered that when we were traveling in Japan. Like, when we were actually touring, I wouldn't know how we would have done it with 8 people, let alone 3.
Oh, it'd been probably miserable.
What interest?
Miserable.
And you have to also take in consideration, we were there in July, August, so it was hot. It was like 100-degree weather.
Yeah.
It was 100% humidity.
It probably would have been a drag.
Yeah, so I think it just worked out pretty well. And it's actually, I feel like, you know, it was kind of like there's different inceptions of all the different groups from HFP and Honor Flow Productions and how we went through. But ultimately, the last 3, the trio, was the last of the batch. And it works. It just works well.
Man, that being said, I want to go ahead and get into It's All Love. Because, you know, you talked about it a little bit earlier, but I want to dive deeper into it.
Okay.
But here we go. GR8-L8 Show.
Down with the sound of HFP. Let me hear you say, oh yeah.
Yeah. Literally coming on the echo of, oh,
I love
yeah.
that quarter, 1/4 quarter fade on echo effect on it. That shit sounded nice.
Oh yeah, you know what? that's my I don't want to give my secrets away about transitions, but like that's like one of my favorite moves. You know what I mean?
We'll give them just a little bit of that, just a smidge.
Just a smidge. You know what I mean? If people who listen to the show, they know that transition, that fade.
only DJs know that shit.
Oh yeah, no.
Like quarter. What is he talking about? Like,
on some real. But I know you touched on it a little bit before we cut to break. But take us through the process of this whole song. You know, literally from the writing to the video to everything.
So quick deep dive on It's All Love. It's the newest video from the Black Odyssey, our album. It's on YouTube now. Go check it out. It's the oldest record on the album. It was the first thing that. So after the band, you know, disbanded. Disbanded. Excuse me. Disbanded. That's a new word. Disbanded. Disbanded. That was in December of 2012. This beat was made in February 2013.
Wow.
And I knew when I made it, it was something special, man. And I think it helps encompass the sound I think I was going with because, you know, people always ask, like, what's the elevator pitch? What's your album sound like? What's your music sound like? And I hate doing that, but if I have to, I always say that this particular album sounds like if a Tribe Called Quest and DJ Quick got in the studio together.
Oof,
because there's elements of obviously we wear an influence on our sleeves. There's elements of, you know, like, you know, the bass lines. I mean, that's obviously a Dylan nod, like that kind of bass line feel. And then of course the synth on top of it in the chorus is very G-Funk like on that particular record. So some of those elements were coming through on that song. And before Eliminate left for Japan, we cut a record. We cut the demo on this. And fun fact, it's the only song on the album where there's not an even amount of bars.
Wow, really?
Because the only reason why I have an extra verse is because the idea at the time was he was going to be in Japan and he was going to, you know, we're going to do tracks back and forth. And, you know, he may have more verses than later or I might have less verses. And so he can perform stuff on his own and I can perform stuff vocally on my own. That's why. But every other song on the album is an equal amount of bars between us. So to kind of give you where the group was at that point. And we sat on it. We knew it was special. And then the Boombox Sketches sessions came up, but we knew that song was the foundation. And it's a song about a nod to, you know, your foundation, where you're beginning, and, you know, it's everything. You know what I mean? And the video itself is special. I really love this video. You know, we got to shoot all my old junior high playgrounds where I started the battle rap. Right. You know, my mother's in the video.
Yeah.
So there's a line where I say, you know, back when Moms wasn't having all the cursing in every CD, I was a clean version. So if you watch the video, I hold a copy of Snoop Dogg's The Last Meal in my hand. And she snatches that in my hand and puts the clean version in my hand. That happened. So literally, like that clean version she has, I've had for like 15, 20 years now. And I went to go buy a dirty version just for the video shoot. But literally, I got it in 7th grade. And my mother was like,
still traumatized.
Yeah, she's like, nah, you ain't listening to all this cussing. Like like you're going to the Warehouse Music and you're buying the clean version, and that happened. So that was true to life on film, like right there.
For the dirty version, did you go to Amoeba or did you order it online?
The dirty, I went to Amoeba.
Oh, Shout out to Amoeba.
I went to Amoeba.
Yeah.
It was the only dirty version available in the whole store. I was like, thank you, God.
Yeah, I think with this song, like in particular, like it was definitely just a lot of nods to just anyone we have love for, and for my part, had to give a shout out to my mom because if she didn't really believe in me, like this could have all turned out differently.
Right.
When I was born, I had a 60% hearing loss in one ear and then 75% in the other. And every doctor was saying, put him in speech, in special ed. And, my mom was saying, there's nothing wrong with my son. And, just through speech therapy, one day I could hear, my hearing was restored and, everything sounded fucking loud. And then, one of the first songs I ever heard was, Mama Said Knock You Out.
And
that
the drums.
That was one of the first things
one
of my first, my earliest memories of, just music, just, the words not sounding muffled, and I was like, "Oh man, Mama said nothing." You speak the way you heard, so just years of hearing it wrong,
wow.
And then hearing it right, I was like, "Okay, cool." And I really wanted to be LL, when I was a kid, but that's another story.
I mean, if you look at him in the video, he's got the Adidas sweatsuit on, the Dookie chain, so it is kind of an LL nod.
Yeah, even when I saw you at the Troubadour, you were out here
we both
definitely
agreed. The two of us, Lord and I agreed. We was like, yo, we looked at Eliminate, that's one of your best outfits ever. You need to rock that again. It's like, you sure? Yes, rock that on stage.
And you had the Star Trek jacket, which I'm very jealous. I don't know where you got that. I'm gonna have to ask you where you did. Did you order it online? I need one.
There's a couple folks have asked me about that. I have to hit you on the low about that.
Oh, okay.
Secret Society on that.
It's all good. It's all good because there's kind of a small inside joke between Brown and I, because every time I do a mix, there's always, it never fails, a DJ Premier produced track and a Neptune's produced track. It's just there's been one time where I've done it and I'm like, wow, there's nothing from the two of them. That's crazy.
It's funny when you do that unconsciously, but it just happens.
Yeah, because I purposefully, I don't really play a song twice on here.
Right.
If you look through 68 episodes, I have my rewind episodes just for the sake of it, but other than that, I'm always digging and I'm always or remembering records. So I just end up playing DJ Premier
but their catalog's
Neptunes.
So deep, man.
That's why it works.
It's so deep, man. So you can't. It's impossible to repeat. You may hit a certain remix, a Neptunes or a Primo remix that oh shit, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's super wild.
That sounds like a new mixtape in order.
Primo versus Neptunes.
Primo?
Come on, man! You got to put that together. Primo versus Neptunes.
I think that might be an episode. That should be an episode.
Don't nobody steal that as Justin's. Don't steal that.
Yeah. I already do New Jobbers versus Dilla every year.
Right.
Those are my most popular episodes.
And then you
usually
see the Primo versus Dilla 2 events.
I think a lot of it is Primo versus Pete Rock. I know that they.
Yeah. But I mean, real fast, just on some beat culture stuff. Do you think beat battles should be more producers getting down live, or do you mind it being okay, a producer plays a record, then the other one plays a record?
You know what? Having been in both of those situations, and I've been in those, let's keep it 1,000. I've done I Standard before, and it was so awkward. This is no disrespect to them. Shouts out to Jay Hatch and all of them down there. It was just so awkward for me to stand up there and not press anything. It was super awkward, and niggas up there playing air piano and shit, as their tracks are being played. I need to touch something. I need to feel like I'm performing. Give me a mic. Let me do something. So I mean, if some cats prefer that, cool. But I need to touch something. I need to be able to perform and touch and do something, man. I need to be in control of the music.
I feel bad for the people who are going to listen to this on Mixcloud because you can't see the gestures because they're doing the SP moves and the...
I got the stutter step to the...
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing about... Look, I get down on the SP, but I use it as a drum machine, actually getting down. But there's so many people who've told me they're wow, you really finger drum on the SP? That's crazy. It's some crazy new invention.
Right,
but I'm nah, dog. That's just how I roll. I've always been this.
I use Machine Live, so you just hit certain loops. So, I mean, we use it on stage even. We didn't get a chance to at a Troubadour that night. But usually we use machine on stage, and we incorporate that. But and even when I do beat sets on the side, I do that as well. But it's just the idea of just adding musicianship to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the most important thing.
It's just awkward for me just to stand up there and just play records like that. Like even as a beat, I
weird.
Gotta do something.
Same.
I feel naked up there otherwise, man. It feels weird.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, I appreciate y'all so much, man. I just want to go ahead and close it by asking what's next, man, because, y'all stay on the move.
Man, that went by quick, man. We could be here for another 3 hours, bro.
Man, I know. That's the homie feeling of the Great Late Show, you know?
Man, and the props. First of all, thank you, Justin, for having us. Thank you,
of course.
TV.
I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Justin.
Of course.
For real, thank you to you, Justin. Thank you to Pharcyde TV for having us.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Brown. Yo, for real, man. Thank you, man.
Yeah, always shout out to Brown, man.
A lot of legendary shit in here,
bro.
Now,
we almost at 70 episodes. I can't even. And it's me and Brown here every week trying to make it happen. So.
But to answer your question, what's next? You just got to tune in and find out, man.
Oh, y'all hit me like that.
We're very much
still spinning the globe.
Just know we're always up to something. We like to surprise folks, but we will say this: Honor Flow Productions, the Black Odyssey. It's the album. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, all streaming services. You can buy it on iTunes as well and on Bandcamp. We got physical. If you like your physical copies, we got those as well. Honorflowproductions.com is our website. You can find all of it up there.
Hi, T-shirts to CDを売っています。来てください。
On Twitter, HFP Music, Facebook, HFP Music, Instagram, Honor Flow Productions, individually, The Old Soul THE, Old Soul HFP on Twitter and Instagram.
Eliminate HFP ELIMN8 HFP.
Nice.
All social media handles: DJ is Lord, DJISLORD HFP.
I think there's one other thing we didn't touch upon in this interview. What does the name Honor Flow Productions mean?
Oh, because I don't usually. All right, let me preface this for anybody who's ever heard me do an interview on anything. Look, I don't do like how'd you get your name. I don't do generic stuff like that. If you know me, I try to dig deeper. I try to have a real ass conversation about the creative process.
I feel you.
And
appreciate you for that.
The science behind it, and the psychology. That's my lane. I'm very philosophical. I try to educate people as well as, whatever.
And I say that shit because some niggas be calling us On the Floor Productions, and I'm tired of it, man. So I gotta correct folks out here.
You can Google it. Just On the Floor Production, Google it. You'll find out the origin of the name. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I try to be a mad scientist with whatever I try to do. So basically explain it.
Absolutely.
You motherfuckers out there, put some respect on the name.
But you know what, like we said off air, having been on the other side of that mic, having done, worked in radio, worked in journalism, I appreciate people who are for the music and for the culture, who does their research and really sits down with the artist. And it's not about the basic questions or even the gossip questions. It's about what's the music like, what makes you tick, and why did you make it? So, and I'm the type of person that always listens and reads those type of interviews. So to be in an interview like that, we appreciate that, man. So thank you, Justin.
Oh, yeah, of course. I appreciate y'all, man. And then big shout out to everybody who tunes in, whether online, whether, Mixcloud, and even now at KQBH. I appreciate y'all, man. It's like artists like y'all keep me going. And some people know the resume, some people don't. I've interviewed a lot of different people, but at the end of the day, it's the up and coming, it's the local people that keep me going, as a DJ, as an interviewer, as a person, just, because at the end of the day, man, we all trying to rise up and do our thing. So if I can help push that, then you know what I mean?
But even with that said, check the resume, put some respect on it, all right?
Oh, yeah,
put respect on,
on both our resumes,
wash your
right?
hands.
Yeah, wash your hands, because coronavirus.
Sickness. I can't believe it took a virus for people not to start washing their hands. Like, come on.
Don't even get me started. The gym, people
I just
don't wash their.
I just need people to wash their hands and wash their ass.
They don't wipe after themselves.
But
there's some funky people out here.
I gotta say this. There's a person at work. I don't know who you are, but fuck you. There's someone that touches the tissue roll with shitty hands, and you just see a shitty handprint on the fucking tissues. Fuck you. Fuck you, and I mean that.
Word. What?
Anyways,
Then we gonna end it like
we gonna end it like. But honestly, shout out to all the people who don't do that. Shout out to everybody who tunes in, supports all that we do.
Shout out to
On the Phone
people
Productions,
like
Black Odyssey, go get it.
I'm sick of this shit.
And I'm gonna shout out Shadows of Society because like a year ago I did a show with them where I was actually DJing.
It's our little brothers right there.
Yeah, shout out to them. Also, they're rocking out because I was playing Evidence. I was what song was that? Throw It All Away. I was playing Throw It All Away.
That's one of my favorite Alchemist beats.
Yeah, yo, it was hard, and they were rocking with me. So big shout out to you. We gonna end it with conversations because we had a great conversation. Hey, see how I did that?
SOS.
But catch y'all next week. G R8-L8 Show, Pharcyde TV.
So clap salutes. So clap salutes, y'all. Thank you. Peace. Peace, peace, peace.